Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. How AI and automation are reshaping talent.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek, and it's wonderful to be hosting a panel discussion early on this topic of AI and whatever we talk about in terms of disruption. So thank you, Dr. Chowdhury. Thank you, Nathan sir, for joining us. And so the topic for panel discussion today is about disruption to innovation and how AI and automation are reshaping talent management. And it's driving innovation and creating new opportunities for employers as well as employees to stay ahead of the curve and gain competitive advantage. So I want to commence the panel discussion with a strong quote. Change is inevitable. The disruption it comes often brings inconvenience and opportunity. So I would urge the panel to focus on the opportunity that it brings in terms of whatever disruption and change that we are going through today. And I would start with Premil. My first question to you is, what is the impact of disruption and the challenges of transformational change from traditional to AI and automation? So there are a lot of organizations which have made a transition already. So I would urge you to talk about what is the impact and the kind of challenges too.
Thanks, Ganesh. Thank you all for having us. It's a very interesting conversation to start with. We saw on the dais Dr. Chowdhury's talk about the impact of disruption to all of us. If you think about it, let's maybe distill this down into three parts, right? Business, processes, and people. Okay, if you think about business, right now, every C-suite agenda has AI included in it. We cannot get away from it. Even universities or even in organizations, startups, everywhere AI is taking center stage. So that's number one. While the solutions for AI are coming up and they are coming up at a very fast pace, the leaders need to know how and where to invest, the amount of money you need to invest, the resources you need to redirect to stay ahead of the game. So I think that's one very critical aspect of how the disruption is taking from moving a traditional business model to an AI supported system. Then on the back end, you have your customer experience, which is basically how your customers will behave and how your customers set will understand why you are introducing AI in the first place and whether they're going to be comfortable with that. That's another part to it. Now, let's move on to the process side. So traditional models have a very strong bedrock of foundational processes, a very huge tech stack, either legacy or modernized. Then you also have your governance and risk and compliance process sitting on top of them. All of that have to be rebuilt now if you introduce AI, because you cannot just layer something on top of AI and then call it, saying, hey, now I've AI-enabled my organization. So now you have that as a very key consideration, which again means it goes back to the business saying that, can I invest in this as a whole? And how much of this disruption can my organization take? The last and the most important piece is people. Like we talked about, there is job displacement, there is things about upskilling, but think about the opportunity of this. One amazing thing about the India talent base is its ability to quickly redirect our focus to get to the next generation of skill sets. So those three, I think, are key areas where I think the disruption from very traditional models to AI, and now we see organizations like academia moving towards AI-generated content, course content, which I think is a huge opportunity for us. And combining all these three, I think the disruption to innovation, I think we can lead on from here.
Yeah. So my question, the next question is to Mr. Balaji. At Explio, you work with a lot of Fortune companies, right? And specifically in the BFSI sector. And if you have to quantify the AI adoption, if you have to rate the AI adoption globally and locally on a scale of 5, what would be your quantification?
See, it's very difficult to quantify because it will depend on what the benefits that it has actually driven to each one of the organizations. But if I were to look at it's not the question of quantifying, it's the question of how it has been adopted and what value it has driven to the end customers. If I were to look at that as the scale, I would say we are anywhere between 3.5 to 4.5 in terms of what value it has actually driven to the end customers, because that's what the objective is. And like what Premil said, and what we heard today from the 13-year-old and the 40-year-old, if I were to look at it, it's the question of understanding your customers. And for that, the underlying data is going to be the most critical element. So whatever we talk about in terms of AI, whatever we talk about in terms of disruption, it's the question of what is the underlying data, what is the kind of quality of that particular data. And that's one of the areas that we work very closely with our customers on, because there's no point in just putting in all the AI models on top of the already biased information or what we think is the right information. Right? It's a question of making sure that we analyze the data, cleanse that particular information, make sure that there are limited biases. In the conversation I had with Pradeep when we were walking in, I've been a customer of one of the banks for the last 30 years, right, since I started my career. And if I were to go back and see as to whether they understand me, I would say no. But there are other bankers whom I've started engagement the last 4 or 5 years, but they have probably been able to understand me better. The reason is, how do you classify your information? How do you make your AI models on top of that information rather than going with your own biases of bucketing everybody in one particular.
Thanks. So my next question is to you, Divya. Has AI and automation technologies influenced organizations to rethink and reshape talent management?
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, and good morning, everyone. I think after a wonderful context setting and an inspiring keynote address by Sir Chowdhury and a very disruptive message that went out from the 13-year-old Shagun, I think we are in the path, an inevitable path of innovation and disruption, that AI is put forth to us, and talent management is in no way, set apart from this whole journey. So today, when you look at talent management as a whole, you could see that a lot of AI and automation in place, which has enabled organizations to have data-driven decision-making process in this whole talent management journey, and then having trend analysis and predictive analysis in place, when it comes to hiring, onboarding. And of course, not to forget about the seamless onboarding process that we have today with a lot of automation. And the pandemic era saw a lot of collaborative tools in place too, which enable a lot of these virtual onboarding, virtual hand-holding towards not only getting the employees on board, but also paving a path for a continuous engagement. So with AI and automation plays, what I see forth, when I don't just restrict talent management with recruiting, but an overall engagement or a journey that the individual has with the organization, whether it be in terms of L&D, the learning and development that happens, whether it be with respect to any AI-driven coaching that can happen, and even to have a wellness program, perception or engagement surveys in place. So definitely, we have been leveraging, and there's a lot of potential that we have in future to make this whole talent management a totally seamless and a very thoroughly engaging process compared to a little bit of boring process that it has been over a period of time. Thank you.
So Premil, I would like to ask you this question because you've been a strategist and you also work in building a lot of global capability centers and advise them as a consultant. So tell me in terms of what are some of the insights on the strategies and initiatives that corporates or organizations that are implementing to address employee concerns on job displacement because of AI and automation?
I think change management has taken a whole new facet. It is traditional change management methods no longer work. That's, I think, one key thing. Organizations are trying to address the key aspect of the longevity of this disruption. Because, yeah, right now we are talking about automation or generative AI, but as this speeds up, you're going to have a lot of job displacement disruption in that area. So if you look at companies, even like TCS and Infosys, they're all investing very heavily into AI academy, right? Basically, even if you're doing a regular, let's say, a very low-level job, they are helping everybody to have a good understanding of what AI is, what are the frameworks in place, what are the ethical, moral considerations that are happening around that job. How does data, like Ganesh, like Balaji mentioned, how does the data come in? How we process the data. So all of this is one part to it. The second part is the learning and development function of organizations have taken a whole new, meaning. It's no longer coming in, taking a class or showing a PPT. It's more about experiential learning, tagging with academics and institutions, co-building solutions, and so on. So I think now is the time which organizations are seeing there's a significant opportunity for them, which will then help them to stay ahead of competition. So that's what I see quite a bit.
Yeah, so Divya, back to you. Do you see specific initiatives by the industry and institutions to improve gender diversity and women in tech? Because that's the organization that you have represented here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for that question. Yes, I'm part of the startup called Equity for Women in Technology, and we are essentially, working on a path for empowering women technology, specifically women in tech, towards this whole, innovation journey that our country is poised at this particular moment. And of course, I must say that working with multiple organizations, there is a strong intent that we see within organizations to bring women to the forefront in this whole scheme of things, to bring women, also taste these disruptive technologies, to contribute to these technologies, and in one way or the other, be front runners out here also. Having said that, there is definitely more, potential out there in terms of, even women themselves coming forward to be part of these kind of initiatives. And I must say that today there are a lot of organizations like ours, plus corporates, which are doing multiple initiatives by a lot of skilling process, coaching process, mentoring process, and being even through sponsorship process to bring women to the forefront and to be equal contributors, to the disrupting technologies and bringing, and I would say bridging the gap of gender diversity in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to share, as per the NASSCOM's State of Data Science and AI Skills India report, which got published earlier this year, about 25% of women in terms of overall deployed talent in data science and AI is something which is women, so which is a significantly high number as well. And if you look at around 48% of women, which is primarily the STEM talent who passed out in 2022, which is around big in terms of gender diversity ratio. So there is a lot of things which are working for us and working in the favor of both institutions and the industry as well. So my next question is to you, Mr. Balaji. Do you think organizations should be very intentional about the needs and create time, space, and place for disruptive innovation and sustainable innovation?
I guess you have the answer in the question itself. So, if we are not intentional, then we can actually write our own obituary, because that's the way it is. Because if I were to look at it over the last 4 or 5 years, the way what we used to call it as machine learning and then went into AI and generative AI is part of every organization's agenda, every organization's plan, how to adapt, how to make sure that we add value to our customers as a service provider, and also make sure that we add value for ourselves as a company and to our teams as well. So the intention is certainly there, but it's the question of scale of intention and how do you execute to that intention. That's going to be the key for success. We can all have our intentions written in our mottos and vision documents and other stuff, but if that doesn't translate into what you actually do and how do you, like what Divya was mentioning, how do you enable your teams, how do you make sure that you see what your customers are doing, you engage in what the market is getting shaped at, and contribute towards that. The intention is of no value end of the day. So the intention has to be backed with the right level of execution as well.
Okay, yeah. So my next question is to you, Pradeep. In the disruption era, what do you think are the typical budgets allocated by organizations as a percentage of the revenues? You can just give a ballpark. Yeah, you represent Kyndryl here, so you can possibly give a ballpark.
Yeah, so it's depend upon organization to organization. However, I can say that somewhere around 20 percentage.
Okay.
That's what on an average we can say. However, again, it's depend upon the organization. If it is startup, they may be investing more, maybe like 40 percentage or 50 percentage in the beginning, and then they, then they reduce the budget. But established organization, 15 to 20 percentage is it's what expected. It's not only for IT, but all the I can say disruptive forces, for enable all these disruptive forces within the organization.
So traditionally it used to be around 4-5%. So now you're saying it's almost about 20%.
Yeah, it traditionally around 10 percentage is for the IT, maybe double of that.
Okay. So my next question is to Mr. Balaji. How CEOs and CXOs can inspire organizations to sustain and succeed in the AI and the automation era? You've been a CEO yourself.
No, actually, it's the other way around. Rather than people like us with so much of gray hair inspiring the team, it's the other way around. At least for me, even today, what we heard from Shagun and the kind of talent that we actually see coming into our organization. Because in our organization currently, the average age of the employees is around 26. It's only people like me who was skewing it, towards 26 rather than the other way around. And if I were to look at it, it's the inspiration is actually coming from them. And as a practice, for people like me and to the other leadership team within our company, we primarily have more an open door policy rather than sitting inside our cabins, because we have taken off some of the glass doors and try and be there as part of the setup. And that's something which I got as an inspiration from the company which I used to work with earlier, where somebody who probably owns billions was actually sitting in the next cubicle next to us, because it's the learning actually happens through that, and the inspiration actually comes from there. It's not that I inspire the team or my leadership team inspires them, but it's the other way around. And the kind of ideas, the kind of knowledge and the passion, people have got to problem solving, trying and making a difference, whether it is on solving customers' problems or to automate our own internal processes, cutting down the red tapeism like what Mr. Chaudhary was talking about. Whether we like it or not, as a legacy, when you are actually a 3-decade-old company, you have built your own processes, which is actually impairing some of your ambitions and growth. And questioning that, those are the inspirations that we get from our teams, and that is what is actually driving us rather than the other way around.
Okay, yeah, good. So my next question is to Mr. Pradeep. Do you have the right infrastructure, or do we rather have the right infrastructure from technology landscape to data privacy to data security to leverage the benefits of AI and automation?
Yeah, certainly the answer is yes or no, actually. So let me address this question one by one. So do we have right infrastructure? Yes, we have right infrastructure to start with. We have a lot of tier 3 and tier 4 data centers across the country. And there are a lot of real estate players and industries like Reliance and Adani and Hiranandani and Brigade, all are coming up with large data centers. Similarly, all the hyperscalers, all the 5 hyperscalers are in India. They got multiple data centers. And we have high-speed connectivity, and we have 5G network. So yes, we have the infrastructure to start. However, is that enough? It's not enough. So I think when there are more and more data centers and people are logging in, then we require higher connectivity, higher storage capacity, higher compute capacity, but down the line it may happen. When it comes to the skill, that's a second point. So we have the skill available. We are the skill hub of the world. However, down the line, like next 10 years, we require more and more people in this domain. And as per a recent Gartner report, I can see that the half-life of the skill, half-life of the technology is 18 months. So we need to reiterate, we need to relearn, unlearn and relearn, then only we will be able to achieve there. And the last point you were asking is privacy and security, right? So privacy and security is a big concern at this moment, not only in India, everywhere. So there is a law passed by government this year, personal data privacy law in August, I believe. So that address certain areas. However, we need a all-inclusive law or inclusive vision from government. So in fact, there are several white papers published. Like in 2019, there was AI strategy, national AI strategy. And I think 2011, the cybersecurity white paper, but it's all in the red tape. So somebody like Chaudhary sir, should come and push this and should get implemented. So the answer is yes, we have things to start. However, we require a proper regulation, proper policy, and we need support from the industries and startups to make it or take it to the next level.
Okay.
So I would just like to add, if you permit me.
Sure.
So whenever we talk, see, in this particular conference, right now, all the industry leaders and the policymakers are sitting. When we talk about policies or the initiatives of the government, may I humbly ask, what is the full form of DPDP Act? Or how many sections do we have in that? Digital Personal and Data Protection Act. How many sections does it have? How many of us have actually gone through the entire act? We are talking about the revolution. We are talking about the change. We are talking about data privacy. Sir specifically highlighted that. How many of us actually gone through that? The point is that if we are not aware about what are the initiatives being taken or what are the policies which are already being framed, then the 13-year-old is bound to replace the 50 or 60-year-old. We are ourselves setting the context. We always talk about industry-academia divide. But point is that we are at the stage, we are at the phase where the innovation and disruption is bound to happen. Pradeep sir, I would just like to add, aapne specifically kaha, so point is that, are we industry ready? Are we AI ready? Are we automation ready? We are. The only thing is that, are we all ready for that? Infrastructure is ready. We have the best of the cloud support available. We have the best of connectivity, which is always going to get better and better. Sir, with due respect, we have to move faster than the reports from our consulting companies because that change is happening. The next report, which is going to come in 24, a lot of disruption, a lot of changes would automatically happen, which would not be their part of that, their preliminary recommendation reports. So are we faster than that? So that is, when we talk about academia, academia is not now just limited to academia. Now that is becoming a next innovation for the industry. And if they are not adopting, the industry is bound to be replaced. We have classic examples of that.
Yeah, so you pretty much answered my next question, which I was supposed to ask you. Yeah, so my next question is to Pradeep. How ready are we as a country to create legal, moral, ethical compass in making AI and automation more inclusive?
Yeah, so part of the answer is already there. I think it's already explained. So there are countries like last week there was a news from US that they are bringing a AI development regulation. Similarly, as we speak today, there is a conference happening in UK that discussing about the AI regulation. So similarly, in India, we need to bring something. So right now it is not in place. However, we need to move fast, in the lightning speed, because when we take a step, the technology move ahead, like 10 steps. So we need to move fast, we need to reiterate fast, and we need to do it right.
Okay. So you were saying agility is the norm.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So
If I tell in Indian context, so our population is 140, crore, right? And 67% of the, or 65% of the population is under 35 years. And around 50% of the population is under 25 years. And around 25% of the population is under 14 years. Like Shagun, there are people coming in. So we need to educate them. So as per the National Education Policy, 2020, as per that, vocational education is recommended from 6th standard onwards. So there are policies, there are white papers, everything is available, but this need to be implemented, and we require willpower from all the government, state and central, to implement this. So we may need to unlearn, we may need to take out things from the curriculum or the syllabus, and we need to put these things in.
okay. So my next question is to you, Piyush. You worked with MHRD. You also been an STPI director yourself, so you know how government functions as well, right? And do you think, and you also been a consultant on policy for the government as well, right? So do you think what we are doing right now, because there are some empowered committees, there are close to about 7 committees which are created by the government. There's a lot of work that is happening in the background, but not maybe in the public domain right now. So do you think we are well equipped, maybe like to announce a regulation like the US did on regulating AI in India? Do you think, how close are we? Are we ready for it as yet?
Okay. So I think that's a brilliant opportunity for me to share my perspective on this particular query which you have just raised. And I would humbly, sir, Pradeep sir, I would just like to follow up on that as well. Okay. When we talk about these initiatives, both by the government sector and the private sector, we are completely ready. I can vouch for that. We have the infrastructure in terms of hardware and the software. Okay? That is already there. And we are actually now moving towards the global connectivity. So the infrastructure, when we talk about AI, just for the benefit of the audience, we need very high graphic intensive hardware, high GPU usage, which is already in existence in the global scenarios. When we talk about India is already in 5G and moving towards the 6G. Mr. Vaishnav recently actually inaugurated with Nokia the 6G lab, okay? And we are keenly progressing forward to implementing the 6G as well. So why not take the advantage of this 24-hour divide when the world on the other part is using this, the cluster network, and when the sun shines on this part of the world, we can use that. Till the time we are actually setting up our own clusters. Moving to the second part, when we talk about the readiness, readiness is not just in terms of the policies. Are we all ready to adopt AI and automation? The change within the organization, the change within the leadership thought, the change within the talent management. Now the talent management word, till a couple of years back, was restricted only till when the employee has entered the organization. Now the talent management happens within the academic frameworks. So entrepreneurs are now learning how to manage the teams at the young age of 19, 20, 21, so that when they get their first check of $1 million, they all stay together. The next important initiative is that how do we bridge the gap? Bridge the gap between I see 4 different initiatives: academia, industry, research, and innovation. All of these 4 things have to work in tandem and work collectively. That is very important. So are we able to bridge the gaps between all these 4 pillars? Upskilling is the answer. So companies like MyAnatomy or companies, other various skill providing companies have to provide those bridging skills at different phases so that we can work together and we can meet the pace. Last but most important, the policies, which you specifically mentioned, sir. Our government is very progressive, and they are also being challenged and moved by the disruption which this AI and automation is bringing. They have understood they cannot ignore it, and that is why when we talk about different verticals of government, they are already adopting AI. The most difficult was the law. I am myself a lawyer with the Supreme Court. I have seen that the Supreme Courts and the High Courts have started adopting AI. So we are all set. The world is going to see India rising in AI and automation.
Thank you. So that brings me to the last question to all my panelists. What should be the incisive and inclusive agenda for government, industry, institutions, startups, and the skilling companies to keep pace with the race against AI and automation? So if I may start with you, Piyush, sir, please.
So I would just like to summarize what I said. The key is the disruption, and all the stakeholders have to work in tandem. They should not be working in silos. So that is the key. So disruption and collaborative approach.
Thanks, Piyush. Well said. I think 2 things from my side. I think one is, while governments can set policies and regulatory frameworks and all of that, in our business, in each of our businesses, we have to be very thoughtful about how we use AI and where the use case is. So that's number 1. And secondly, if you have seen the NASSCOM's guidelines for AI, I really like the last part of it, which is support the growth of humanity as a whole. Right? Just because if you're trying to use AI against humanity, so the word against is not possibly a right one, I think we should use it for the support of growth of humanity as a whole. I think that's a consideration, whether it is industry, academia, research, innovation, whatever that may be. I think we have to consider from that perspective and then be very thoughtful and cautious when we use it, because it's new to all of us. So that would be my agenda that I would request everyone to take over.
I'm not going to talk much about laws and policies because it's already been covered extensively. But it's a question of, how do you make sure, you create frameworks within your organization and also, within the companies as such, in terms of how do you implement, how do you, enhance the value which is going to come from AI? Because at this particular point of time, if you were to look at just the financial services industry, most of the use cases are around, anti-money laundering, KYC. If you were to actually extend that to make sure that you know what your customers are doing, how your customers are reacting, and ethically as well, in terms of making sure that you protect their information and get the value out of it. Because those ethics don't come from any of the rules or policies. How do you get to use it is something which is going to be defined at each organization level. And the other element, what Divya mentioned, and what we were talking about from a talent perspective, like what Piyush mentioned, talent management is not any longer just an onboarding exercise, but it's an ongoing, it's a continuous process. And 18 months is itself looks like actually it's quite long, because nowadays the technologies keep changing so much. Because what I learned a few months back in Udemy is not relevant anymore, because I keep getting updates from my own course instructor in terms of what I need to get updated with every 3 months. If I were to look at, we can certainly find out what courses to take, but which team member or which particular part of your organization should learn what is something which we as organizations will have to actually come up with. Just by throwing open all the 300 courses that are available is not going to be relevant for everybody. It's a question of finding out what is relevant for your team members and making sure that you play a part in that particular progression is going to be equally important as well.
Yeah, Divya?
So I think pretty much all the points are covered, but I would like to stress on, creating awareness, because today there are n number of articles out there in print as well as on the internet about AI, the disruption it is bringing, the innovation it is bringing and poised to bring. But then creating awareness, like my panelist has already touched upon, about the ethical usage of AI and where it can be used to create more innovation and where it can be really very destructive. And having said that, involve, like I think Mr. Piyush also told about, in bringing up all the the key pillars together, starting with academia, creating awareness in young minds, and today that is very much aware, and so that they also come to the forefront in this whole scheme of innovation, and they are trained young and they stay relevant. So that's very crucial today in the industry, that we are in this path of continuous learning, where we need to continuously assess self on where our skills are, where we need to reskill, where we need to upskill. So getting all the young minds already ingrained with these thoughts right from their college would definitely help. And as any Indians today, I'm eagerly awaiting, and I'm equally proud to see India leading the way. It's already a leader in thought leadership and leading the way in this AI, not only AI, in all the future technology disruptions that the world is going to witness. Thank you.
Let me address this question again, one by one. So there are several aspects I think we need to consider, and I think it's all covered, but it's just a summarization. From what we expect from government, so we need to have regulation and policies, like I was mentioning before, and the second is the assurance from the government or education from the government. So they need to collaborate with the private players so that the awareness can be there, because it's gonna affect around 67% of the population who are between age 65 to 15, I can say. So a huge, large population need to be educated on AI. So that's a second expectation from government. From institutions and startups, I encourage them to do responsible innovation. So that's because, as per the NASSCOM report, there will be a disruption amounting approximately $500 billion in next 2 to 3 years. So these players need to do responsible innovation so that it's taken care well by the citizens. And the last one is the education sector or the skill perspective. So I would say government should or the players, the educational institutions, they should bring newer courses and they should encourage continuous learning so that and inclusive learning, I can say, inclusive learning, so that all can at whatever age can learn things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks to our thought leaders in the panel for sharing their perspectives, insights, and experiences, making this discussion a thought-provoking one for all of us. And India is already number one in AI skill penetration, number one in AI talent concentration, number two in AI talent deployment, and number 5 in scientific and publications and patents. and number 2 in terms of STEM talent market as well globally. And for us to grow and sustain and become AI capital of the world, it is pertinent that government, industry, institutions, startups, and skilling ecosystem have to collaborate and strive for success as well. So with that, we conclude the panel discussion, and I have maybe time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. If there are any questions, I would please request the audience to please ask. Yeah, so can a mic be reached out to the person there?
Hi, my name is Seema, and I'm a part of an organization called AMCO. So we are a retail GCC in India. So the question I had for you is, of course, we are talking a lot about AI and the disruption that is going to bring to all our jobs and maybe reduced workforce. But on the other hand, we also have the likes of Mr. Narayan Murthy, who are claiming about youngsters doing a 70-hour work week. So these are 2 very contradictory thoughts that are coming in the talent landscape. So my question to the panel is, where do you think this is headed? Is one theme going to take precedence over the other? And in the near future, what would our talent landscape look like?
Let me just give it a shot then, right? I think there's a lot of fixation around the 70-hour work week, right? And I think the number of hours is a lot of concern for most of us. But I think some of us have worked that many hours as well in the past. But let's leave that 70 number a bit outside, right? But the question basically is, on one side, my whole AI is going to reduce the amount of work that I have to do. On the other side, people are asking us to work longer and hours in a week. If I were to summarize, that's the way you're looking at it. I think the whole amount of time that you spend optimizing your work, you should be able to redirect into doing something different for yourself. Whether it is on work or whether it is something that is a hobby or whether you find something else to do, the whole aspect of things like AI is that how they're able to improve your lifestyle. Right now, when you are young, your lifestyle, yes, it is very exciting, there are a lot of things to do, but at the same time, if you see people who are really high achievers, they spend a lot of time pursuing a lot of keen interest in emerging technologies or emerging problems and trying to solve for them. So, however you are wanting to spend the other 30, 40 hours that you save for yourself is up to you, but I think the core of how they are kind of approaching that is, use that time usefully to understand things like AI, automation, change management, talent management, all the discussions that are happening around you, and put your time and effort into that, which will then help you to have stay a step ahead of your competition and your similar, your colleagues. That's the way I would look at it.
I would just like to quickly take a shot at this question, and I'm really happy that you asked this question. Ma'am, can you share your name once again, please? Seema. Okay. Seema, this is a perspective of the same person who actually, jinke hum WhatsApp, we were actually circulating a couple of years back, that you need to have a work-life balance in your professional and your personal life, right? We were quoting him on several occasions that you need to have defined working hours, and then you should actually also dedicated and specific time allocated only for your family. Now, he's the man, it's his perspective, which he shared in a wider opinion, where he said that work 70 hours a week. He didn't say that you work 70 hours a week for a specific employer who is paying you a salary. I'll just give you an example from my ecosystem itself. I am a university, a private university, where I have the 5th largest number of patents granted in the world, and 3 times the number of patents which are actually filed. So I'm number 1 in filing the number of patents, and 5th in the world in the number of grant of patents. How does that happen? We encourage our students that you actually have to focus on your academia, but after that, work on the innovation, work on yourself, work on your skills, work on the new technologies, because the technology is going to change much faster than what you're going to learn. We talk and encourage, and these number of patents, that is close to 2,900 plus, are by the students, who at this young age are doing more than the academics. And when it comes to the industry, work more, learn more about the innovative and disruptive technologies so that you are always ahead of the curve, so that you do not actually end into a discussion that disruption is going to take away the jobs.
Okay, so thank you, and I think we are done with the kind of time allotted to us. So thank you very much to all our thought leaders in the panel, and thank you audience as well for the patient.